I hid my daughter for 7 months because I thought her father was the danger. But at 2:13 in the morning, in the marble hallway of St. Vincent's private wing, I learned the truth had a way of crawling out of even the smallest piece of paper. The birth certificate fell before I did. That was the part one remembered first. Not the cold lights above me. Not the rain streaking down the windows like the city itself was trying to wash something away. Not the nurse at the far desk who suddenly stopped typing when the elevator doors opened. Just the paper, sliding across the polished floor, whispering over white marble until it touched the toe of a black Italian leather shoe. My breath stopped. Lily whimpered against my shoulder, her tiny fist tangled in the collar of my sweatshirt, warm and half asleep and innocent of every lie I had built around her life. I tightened my arm around her and reached down too late. A man's hand got there first. Long fingers, gold signet ring, a cufflink shaped like a silver hawk. I knew that hand. I had seen it once wrapped around a crystal glass in a hotel ballroom 7 months before my daughter was born. I had seen it bleeding under a linen napkin while I pressed my palm over his and told him to stay awake. I had spent every night since then trying to forget it. Dominic Hale lifted the paper. The hallway changed around him. It was not dramatic. No one screamed. No one ran. But every person within 50 feet seemed to understand that the air now belonged to him. The security guard by the double doors straightened. The nurse lowered her eyes. Even the elevator behind him stayed open, as if it was afraid to close until he allowed it. He was taller than I remembered, maybe 6'3", dressed in a charcoal suit that looked untouched by the storm outside. His dark hair was combed back, silvered just beginning at the temples, and his face held the kind of calm that made people careful. Too calm, too still, like a locked room with something dangerous inside. His eyes moved across the certificate once. Then again, I watched the exact second he saw it. Not his name. I had left that line blank. I had stared at the father box for almost an hour in a county office in Queens, my pen shaking so badly the clerk asked if I needed water. I had written nothing because nothing felt safer than the truth. But Dominic did not need his name to be written. He saw the surname. Lily Rose Hale. A name I had sworn no one would ever connect to him. His jaw tightened once. Barely, but I felt it like thunder. "Who gave you permission?" he said, his voice low enough that I almost wished he had shouted. "To use my name?" Lily stirred. Her mouth trembled. I shifted her higher on my hip, hiding her face against my shoulder as if my body could become a wall strong enough to stop him from seeing her. "It was a mistake," I whispered. My voice sounded thin in that expensive hallway. Small. Poor. Guilty. Dominic's eyes lifted from the paper to me. For half a second, I saw nothing there. No anger. No surprise. Just calculation, cold and exact. Then his gaze dropped to the baby in my arms. Lily opened her eyes. Gray. Clear. Soft from sleep. His eyes, before the world taught them to freeze. Dominic went completely still. I had imagined this moment in every terrible version. I had imagined him furious. I had imagined him denying her. I had imagined men in dark suits, locked doors, papers signed under pressure, my daughter taken from my arms by a world I could never afford to fight. I had not imagined silence. I had not imagined the most feared man in New York staring at a 7-month-old baby like she had just broken something in him he did not know still existed. "Grace," he said. My name in his mouth felt like a key turning in a door I had kept locked with both hands. I stepped back. "Don't." His eyes returned to mine. "You disappeared." The words were not loud, but they carried weight. 7 months of unpaid bills. 7 months of false names on motel registers. 7 months of keeping Lily's stroller away from windows. 7 months of waking up every time a car slowed outside my building. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to cry. I wanted to tell him that disappearing had been the only thing I knew how to do. Instead, I bent fast, snatched the diaper bag from the floor, and reached for the certificate. He did not give it back. "I need that," I said. "You needed many things," Dominic answered, his eyes on Lily again. Apparently, I was not one of them. That hurt more than it should have. Because once, for one night only, I had needed him to live. And he had. Then the world had punished me for it. A sound came from the far end of the hall. Shoes. More than one pair. Dominic's men had stepped out of the elevator behind him, quiet and broad-shouldered in black coats. My pulse jumped so hard I felt it in my teeth. Lily sensed it and began to cry, small broken sounds against my neck. Dominic's head turned slightly. "Stay back," he said to them. They stopped immediately. He looked at Lily, then at me, and something in his voice shifted by an inch. Not soft. Dominic Hale did not do soft, but lower. Controlled. "You're scaring her." I hated that sentence. I hated the way it made my eyes burn. Because for 7 months, I had been the only person in the world who cared whether Lily was scared. I took another step back, closer to the stairwell door. "I was never here," I said. "You never saw us." Dominic folded the birth certificate once, carefully, like it was not a document, but evidence of a life he had been denied. I saw enough. The stairwell handle was cold under my palm. "Please." That word slipped out before I could stop it, and his face changed. Just slightly. Maybe he remembered the last time I said it. In a service corridor at the Langford Hotel, while alarms rang somewhere above us, and his blood warmed my hands through a white towel. Maybe he remembered promising me, in a voice rough with pain, that no one would touch me. Maybe he had forgotten. Men like Dominic could afford to forget women like me. I could not afford to forget him. "Grace," he said again, and this time it sounded less like an order and more like a warning he did not want to give. I opened the stairwell door. Cold air rushed in, smelling of concrete, rain, and old metal. Lily cried harder. Dominic took one step toward us, then stopped himself. That was when I understood the part that frightened me most. He could have reached me. He could have ordered every exit sealed. He could have taken the paper, the baby, the truth, and my freedom in the time it took me to breathe. But he did not. He stood there under the hospital lights, holding the proof of my lie in his hand, and let me run. I moved down the stairs so fast my knees nearly gave out. 1 flight. 2. 3. Lily's cheek pressed wet against mine. "I'm sorry," I whispered to her, though I did not know which sin I meant. Hiding her, naming her, bringing her here, loving a man whose world had teeth. By the time I reached the parking garage, my lungs burned, and the rain outside sounded like applause on the pavement. I thought I had escaped. Then the automatic doors slid open. 2 black SUVs waited beneath the flickering lights. Their engines were running. Their headlights washed the concrete in white. And standing between them was Dominic Hale, dry beneath a black umbrella, the birth certificate still in his hand. He had not chased me. He had simply known where I would go. My feet stopped. Lily quieted, as if even she could feel the city holding its breath. Dominic looked at her first, then at me. 7 months, he said. "You hid my daughter from me for 7 months. My fingers tightened around Lily until I forced them to loosen. I hid her from the people around you." His expression did not move, but something behind his eyes sharpened. "Who?" I swallowed. The name had lived under my tongue like poison for almost a year. I had never said it out loud. Not to a doctor. Not to a neighbor. Not even to myself in the mirror. But Dominic was watching me now, and for the first time, I wondered if the danger had never been standing in front of me at all. Maybe it had been standing behind him, smiling, trusted, close enough to whisper in his ear. "Victor Kane," I said, and the umbrella in Dominic Hale's hand went perfectly still. The moment I said Victor Kane's name, the parking garage seemed to shrink around us. Dominic did not speak. He did not move. Even the rain beyond the open entrance felt quieter, as if the whole city knew better than to interrupt him. His men exchanged a glance behind him, quick and careful, then looked away. That was when I knew. Victor was not just some name from the edges of Dominic's world. He was close. Too close. Close enough that my fear had sounded impossible until it came out of my mouth. Dominic lowered the umbrella slightly, not enough for the rain to touch him, just enough for me to see his eyes clearly. "Say that again," he said. My throat tightened. Lily had stopped crying, but she was still trembling against my chest, her tiny breath warm through the cotton of my sweatshirt. I pressed my palm to the back of her head. "Victor Kane," I repeated, quieter this time. "He found me 3 weeks after the Langford." The name of the hotel slipped out before I could stop it. Dominic's face changed again. Not much. With him, everything happened in inches. A shadow behind the eyes. A muscle at the jaw. A stillness that became sharper instead of softer. "You remember that night," he said. I almost laughed, but it would have broken me. Remember. As if memory was a choice. As if I had not heard the sound of those service elevators in my dreams for almost a year. As if I had not woken up every few nights with my hands searching for a towel that was no longer soaked through with panic. "I remember enough," I said. "I remember you telling me not to be afraid. I remember believing you for about 6 hours. Dominic took one step closer. I stepped back without meaning to. His eyes dropped to the movement, and something in his expression tightened. Not anger. Recognition. The kind that hurts because it arrives too late. I never sent Victor to you, he said. I know that now. The words tasted bitter. I did not know that then. A black SUV door opened behind him, but Dominic lifted 2 fingers, and the person inside stopped before stepping out. He did not look away from me. What did he say? I looked past him at the garage exit. The ramp curved upward toward the street, toward rain, traffic, strangers, anything that felt less like being trapped between a secret and the man it belonged to. But 2 vehicles blocked the way. Not aggressively, not touching me, just present, like walls with headlights. Grace. His voice pulled me back. I hated the way my name sounded different when he said it. Like he remembered the person I had been before fear made me smaller. I swallowed. He came to my apartment in Queens. I had just taken the test that morning. My hand shifted over Lily's back. I had not told anyone, not even my roommate. But he knew. Dominic's eyes went cold in a way that made the air feel thinner. How? I do not know. My voice cracked, and I hated that too. Maybe the clinic. Maybe someone followed me. Maybe your world has eyes in places normal people do not think to look. He said nothing because we both knew that was true. He was polite. I continued. That was the worst part. He did not yell. He did not touch me. He just sat at my kitchen table like he had been invited, wearing a navy suit and smiling at the cracked linoleum like it offended him. He put a photograph in front of me. Dominic's grip tightened on the folded birth certificate. What photograph? You, I said. Outside a church, standing beside a casket. I did not know whose funeral it was. He told me it was your father's. He told me the Hale name did not come with a home. It came with a target. Dominic looked away for the first time, just for a second, toward the rain. But in that second, I saw something human cross his face. Old grief. Buried deep. Still breathing. What else? He asked. He said men like you do not have children. They have heirs. And heirs make people nervous. Lily made a soft sound in her sleep, her fingers curling into my collar. I closed my eyes. Then he told me if I went to you, everyone would know. If everyone knew, she would never be safe. He said the kindest thing I could do for my baby was disappear before you ever learned she existed. Dominic's voice dropped lower. And you believed him. My eyes opened. I was 24 years old, pregnant, broke, and alone. I had known you for one night, Dominic. One impossible night. I did not know who protected you and who wanted your power. I did not know which doors were safe. I only knew a man with your address, your history, and your trust had found me before I had even found a doctor. The words came faster now, 7 months of silence breaking at once. So yes, I believed him. I packed one suitcase. I left my job. I sold my car for cash. I slept in weekly motels with a chair under the door handle. I gave birth under a different last name because every time a nurse asked for the father's information, I heard Victor's voice in my head. Dominic stared at me as if each sentence was being carved into him. I looked for you, he said. It was not an excuse. It was worse. It was the truth arriving too late to help either of us. After the Langford, I looked. My chest hurt. Victor told me you would say that. His eyes sharpened. What? I nodded toward the paper in his hand. He said if you ever found me, you would sound wounded first, then angry. Then you would take control because that is what men like you do when they are afraid. For the first time, Dominic looked truly unsettled. Not because I had accused him, because Victor had known him well enough to predict the shape of his pain. A phone vibrated inside one of the SUVs. One of his men checked the screen, then looked at Dominic with quiet urgency. Dominic did not ask for the message out loud. The man only said, Sir, Mr. Kane just arrived at the hospital upstairs. My blood went cold. Lily shifted in my arms as if she felt it pass through me. Dominic's gaze returned to mine, and this time there was no accusation in it. Only a terrible kind of certainty. Victor had not been part of my past. He was still moving inside the present. Dominic unfolded the birth certificate, looked once at Lily's name, then carefully placed it inside his coat like it belonged close to his heart. Get in the car, he said. I stiffened. His eyes softened by a fraction. Not because I own you. Not because I am ordering you. He looked at Lily, and his voice changed again, so low it almost disappeared beneath the rain. Because the man who taught you to run just walked back into the building where he knew you would be. I looked at the hospital elevators. Bright. Silent. Waiting. Then I looked at Dominic Hale, the man I had mistaken for the danger. For 7 months, I had run from his name. But the real danger had followed me through it. So I stepped toward the SUV, holding Lily close, and for the first time since she was born, I did not run away alone. The inside of Dominic Hale's SUV smelled like leather, rainwater, and something faintly clean, like cedar soap. I sat in the back seat with Lily pressed against my chest, my body angled toward the door even though I had nowhere to go. Old habits do not disappear because a dangerous man lowers his voice. They stay in your bones. They keep your hand near the handle. They make every red light feel like a decision. Dominic sat across from me instead of beside me. That mattered, though I did not want it to. He gave me space like it was something he had learned from pain, not manners. A black privacy screen separated us from the driver. The city blurred beyond the tinted windows, all wet pavement and yellow traffic lights and storefronts with metal gates pulled down for the night. New York at 2:30 in the morning looked honest in a way daylight never allowed. Tired, glittering, unforgiving. Lily had stopped crying, but she would not let go of my sweatshirt. Her small fingers opened and closed against the fabric, and every time her breath hitched, Dominic's eyes moved to her. Not fast, not obvious, but always. Like some invisible thread had been tied between them in the parking garage, and neither of them understood it yet. "Does she have a blanket?" he asked. I blinked at him. "What?" "She is cold." I looked down. Lily's socks had slipped halfway off one foot, and the hem of her little yellow pants had ridden up. Before I could fix it, Dominic reached toward the seat beside him, opened a compartment, and pulled out a folded cashmere scarf. Dark gray. Expensive enough that I almost refused it out of instinct. "It is clean," he said. That was not why I hesitated. He seemed to know that too. He leaned forward slowly, then stopped halfway and placed the scarf on the empty seat between us. Not in my lap. Not over Lily. Between us. A choice instead of a command. I picked it up. It was softer than anything I owned. I wrapped it around Lily's legs, tucking the edges under her feet. She sighed, the small exhausted sound she made when sleep finally won. Dominic watched that sound change her face. His expression did something I could not name. "What is her middle name?" he asked. "Rose." His eyes lifted. "Why?" I looked out the window. We passed a closed diner with neon flickering in the rain. "Because the nurse who held my hand during labor was named Rosemary. She stayed after her shift ended because I did not have anyone else." Silence filled the car. Thick. Heavy. Different from the silence in the hospital hallway. That one had been shock. This one had weight. "I should have been there," he said. I almost said yes. I almost let the word come out sharp enough to cut both of us. But Lily was sleeping, and I was tired of making weapons out of everything I felt. "You did not know." I should have known. I turned back to him then. "How?" "Victor made sure you would not." Dominic's jaw tightened. "Victor has been with my family since I was 17. My father trusted him. I trusted him." He said the last sentence like a confession, and for the first time, I understood something terrible. Dominic Hale was not only angry because Victor had threatened me. He was angry because Victor had been close enough to do it. Betrayal from a stranger is a wound. Betrayal from family is a mirror. It shows you exactly where you were blind. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Somewhere he cannot reach tonight." That is not an answer. It is the only one I can give you until I know who else is listening. My stomach tightened. "You think there are more?" Dominic looked at the dark glass, at the city sliding past us in pieces. "Victor does not move alone. He never did. I was just foolish enough to believe his loyalty was stronger than his ambition." The SUV turned onto FDR Drive, the East River black and restless beside us. My reflection appeared faintly in the window. Damp hair. Pale face. A baby sleeping against my shoulder under a scarf worth more than my rent. I looked like someone who had wandered into the wrong life. Again, my phone buzzed inside the diaper bag. The sound was small, but my whole body reacted. Dominic noticed. Of course he noticed. "Do not answer yet," he said. "It might be my neighbor." At 2:40 in the morning? I hated that he was right. I shifted Lily carefully and pulled out the phone. Unknown number. No caller identification. My thumb froze above the screen. Dominic extended his hand. "May I?" "Not give it to me. Not hand it over." "May I?" The politeness made it worse somehow. I placed the phone on the seat between us. It stopped ringing. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then a text appeared. No greeting. No punctuation. Just 7 words that turned my blood cold. You should have kept running, Grace. The car seemed to tilt under me. I stared at the message until the letters blurred. Dominic picked up the phone, read it once, and the calm in his face vanished into something colder. Controlled, but colder. He knows I am with you. I whispered. Yes. He knows about Lily. Dominic's eyes moved to our daughter, asleep beneath his scarf. He knew before I did. That sentence landed harder than anything else. I had spent 7 months hiding her from her father while his betrayer already held her name like a match near paper. My hand began to shake. I tucked it under Lily so she would not feel it. Dominic leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low enough not to wake her. Listen to me carefully, Grace. You are not going back to your apartment. You are not answering unknown numbers. You are not apologizing for surviving what he made you fear. My eyes burned. I do not know how to stop being afraid. For once, he had no immediate answer. The city lights moved over his face, silver then shadow, silver then shadow. Then do not stop yet, he said. Just let me stand between you and the reason. The SUV slowed before a gated townhouse on a quiet Upper East Side block lined with bare trees and brownstone steps shining from the rain. Not a mansion, not a fortress from the outside. Just old money hidden behind ironwork and security cameras I would not have noticed a year ago. The gate opened without anyone speaking. As we pulled inside, Lily woke. Her gray eyes opened slowly, unfocused and soft. She looked across the car at Dominic. He went still again. She stared at him for one long, silent second. Then she reached one tiny hand toward the shine of his cufflink. Dominic did not breathe. I did not either. Carefully, as if approaching a sleeping bird, he offered one finger. Lily wrapped her whole hand around it. Her fingers barely fit. Dominic Hale, the man I had crossed an entire city to avoid, looked down at our daughter's hand holding his and forgot how to be feared. The phone buzzed again on the seat. Another message, this time with a photo. The outside of the townhouse, taken from across the street. Under it, Victor had written one line. She was never yours to find. Dominic moved before I could understand what the photograph meant. 1 second, Lily's tiny hand was wrapped around his finger, and the next, the softness in his face disappeared behind something colder, cleaner, trained by years of surviving rooms where trust could turn dangerous without making a sound. He did not raise his voice. He did not curse. He simply looked at the driver through the privacy screen and said, "Inside." Now, the doors opened around us almost at once. Men stepped out into the rain, but they did not rush like people in panic. They moved with quiet purpose, umbrellas lifting, eyes scanning brownstone windows, parked cars, tree shadows, the glossy black street beyond the gate. I held Lily so tightly she gave a sleepy protest, and guilt cut through the fear. "I am sorry," I whispered against her hair. "I am sorry, baby." Dominic heard me. Of course he did. He turned back, and his voice lost its steel by a fraction. "Do not apologize to her for keeping her alive." The words hit a place in me I did not know was still bleeding. A man in a dark coat opened my door, but Dominic stepped in front of him and held out his hand to help me down. I stared at it. Rain ticked against the umbrella above us. Lily blinked up at the shifting light. I wanted to refuse. Pride rose first, automatic and useless. Then memory rose after it. Victor at my kitchen table. Victor smiling at my shaking hands. Victor telling me that women like me did not win against families like theirs. I put my hand in Dominic's. His palm was warm. Steady. He did not squeeze. He did not pull. He only held long enough for me to find my balance on the wet pavement, then let go first. That, somehow, made my throat burn. The townhouse door opened before we reached it. Inside, everything was quiet wealth. Dark wood floors, cream walls, a narrow table with fresh white flowers in a glass vase. No gold, no velvet, nothing loud. It felt less like a palace and more like a place designed by someone who wanted peace, but did not believe he deserved it. A woman in her 60s appeared at the end of the hall, wrapped in a navy cardigan, gray hair pinned at the back of her head. She looked at Dominic first, then at me, then at Lily. Her face changed. Not shock, not judgment, something softer. "I will warm the nursery," she said. Nursery. The word made me flinch. Dominic noticed. "Mrs. Bella's worked for my family since before I was born," he said. "She is safe." Safe. People said that word like it was a blanket. To me, it had always been a locked door with a chair beneath the handle. Mrs. Bell approached slowly, stopping several feet away from me. "She is beautiful," she said, looking at Lily. "What is her name?" My mouth went dry. For 7 months, I had guarded that name like a flame in a storm. "Lily," I said. Mrs. Bell's eyes shone. "Of course she is." I did not understand why that hurt. Maybe because kindness felt more dangerous than cruelty when you had lived too long without it. Dominic handed his coat to a man by the door, but kept the folded birth certificate in his inside pocket. I saw the motion. "So did he." "It stays with me," he said. "For now." "It is hers," I answered. "It is proof of her." His eyes held mine. "No, Grace. She is proof of herself. The paper is proof that someone tried to turn her life into leverage." Before I could answer, his phone rang. Not the phone Victor had reached. Dominic's personal phone. The room changed again. Every man in the hall seemed to hear it without looking. Dominic glanced at the screen, and for the first time since the hospital, I saw anger move across his face plainly enough to frighten me. "Victor," he said. My stomach dropped. Lily stirred. Mrs. Bell stepped back, but did not leave. Dominic answered and placed the phone on speaker, holding it between us like he wanted me to hear every word and never doubt him again. Victor Kane's voice filled the hallway, smooth as polished glass. "You always were sentimental, Dominic. It made your father nervous." Dominic did not blink. "You came to the hospital tonight." "I go many places." "You threatened Grace." A soft laugh. "Threatened is such an ugly word." "I advised her, and she listened better than you ever did." My hands went cold around Lily. Dominic looked at me, not away from me. That mattered. He was not hiding the monster in the room anymore. He was letting me see it had a name. "Why?" Dominic asked. "Because your father made one mistake before he died," Victor said. "He left everything to blood. Not loyalty, not work. Blood. And then you nearly created more of it with some frightened little waitress who did not even know what family she had stumbled into." My face went hot, but Dominic's eyes sharpened. "You knew she was pregnant before I did. I knew she was useful before you did." The sentence landed like ice. Useful. Not Grace. Not mother. Not woman. Useful. Lily made a small sound against my shoulder, and Dominic's gaze dropped to her for half a heartbeat. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet enough to make the entire hall listen harder. "You will not say another word about my daughter." Victor paused. Then, softer, almost amused, "Your daughter? Dominic, you have held her for less than a minute." "I watched over her for 7 months." My knees weakened. Mrs. Bell moved closer, not touching me, just near enough that I knew she would catch me if I fell. "What does that mean?" I whispered. Dominic's eyes never left the phone. Victor heard me. "It means you were never as hidden as you believed, Grace." The motels. The clinic. The little apartment above the laundromat in Astoria. You were easy to lose only because I wanted Dominic to feel the loss later. The hallway tilted. All those nights I thought fear was making me imagine footsteps. All those mornings I checked the curtains twice. I had not been paranoid. I had been watched. Dominic ended the call without another word. The sudden silence was worse than Victor's voice. I looked at him and saw something break behind his control. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. "He knew where we were," I said. "Every time." Dominic stepped toward me, then stopped, respecting the line my fear still drew on the floor. "Yes. And you did not." His face tightened. No, that was the wound. Not that he had failed me on purpose. That he had failed me without knowing I needed him. Lily reached one hand out from the scarf, sleepy and unaware, toward the glint of Dominic's signet ring. He looked at her hand like it was a verdict. Then he looked at me. "I cannot change 7 months," he said. "But from this moment forward, he does not get 1 more inch of your life." Outside, rain tapped the windows like fingers counting down. Inside, Mrs. Bell took 1 step toward the staircase and said the nursery was ready. But before I could move, Dominic's phone lit up again with a final message from Victor. No photograph this time, just an address. My old apartment in Queens. And beneath it, 5 words that made the room go silent. Check what she left behind. The address on Dominic's phone looked harmless. A string of numbers. A street name in Queens. An apartment above a laundromat where the machines shook the floor every night until midnight and the hallway always smelled like detergent, takeout, and old radiator heat. To anyone else, it was just a place. To me, it was 7 months of whispered prayers and locked windows. It was where Lily first smiled at a ceiling fan. It was where I learned to heat formula with one hand while checking the peephole with the other. It was where I kept everything I could not carry when I ran to the hospital. Dominic read the message once, then looked at me. "What did you leave behind?" My mind emptied. That was the cruelest thing about fear. It did not only make your heart race. It stole your inventory. It scattered your thoughts across every drawer, every cabinet, every folded blanket. "I do not know," I said. We left fast. I packed diapers, 2 bottles, her medical folder, my wallet. Mrs. Bell stood near the staircase with Lily's borrowed scarf folded over one arm, her face pale but steady. "The baby should sleep," she said gently. I looked down. Lily was awake again, watching the chandelier light above us with wide gray eyes. She had no idea that adults could turn a home into a trap with a single sentence. "I am not leaving her," I said. Dominic's answer came immediately. "No one is asking you to." That should have comforted me. Instead, it made my eyes burn because I realized how prepared I had been to fight him over things he had not taken. Mrs. Bell led us upstairs to the nursery. The room was cream and pale green. Too perfect, too ready, as if Dominic Hale had kept a place for a child he never expected to have. A white crib stood near the window. A rocking chair sat beside it. There were unopened packages of diapers in different sizes stacked in the corner. I stopped in the doorway. "Why do you have this?" Dominic stood behind me, close enough that I could feel his presence, not touching, never touching unless I chose it. "My sister stayed here last year with her newborn," he said. The room remained. I nodded like that explanation did not loosen something in my chest. Mrs. Bell warmed a bottle and tested it against her wrist with the practiced tenderness of someone who had done this many times. Lily accepted it with a sleepy sigh, and for 10 minutes, the world narrowed to the soft sound of her drinking, the rain at the glass, and Dominic standing by the door like a man guarding a church he did not know how to enter. When Lily finally slept in the crib, I kept my hand on her back until my fingers cramped. Dominic waited. He did not tell me to hurry. He did not say we had no time. That patience frightened me more than force would have, because it left me alone with my own choice. I turned away from the crib slowly. "There is a shoebox under the loose floorboard in my bedroom closet," I whispered. Dominic's eyes sharpened. "What is inside?" "Copies. Everything Victor ever sent me. The first note. The photograph. The clinic receipt from the day he found me. A prepaid phone he called once and told me to throw away." My voice shook. I did not throw it away. For a moment, no one moved. Then Dominic exhaled through his nose, quiet and controlled. "Grace." I could not tell if he was angry, impressed, or something worse. "I needed proof," I said. I did not know who to give it to. I did not know if anyone would believe me. But I thought if something happened to me, maybe someday someone would find it and understand I did not just vanish. The words hung there between us, ugly and honest. I saw them hit him. Saw him look toward the crib, where Lily's tiny hands rested open beside her face. "You prepared for someone to find your story after you were gone," he said. I looked down. I prepared for my daughter to have a story if I could not give her one myself. Dominic turned away for 1 second, placing one hand against the doorframe. Not weak, not broken, but held together so tightly that even grief seemed afraid to touch him. When he faced me again, his voice was lower. "I am going to get that box. I am coming with you." No, the word was calm, but final. My spine went stiff. "Do not say no to me like that." His eyes held mine. "Then hear the reason, not the order. Victor sent that address because he wants you near it. He wants you scared enough to make a mistake. He wants me divided between protecting you here and following him there. That box is mine." "Yes." He stepped closer, then stopped before the space became too small. "And I will bring it back to you unopened." I searched his face for the lie, for the man who would take my evidence, my choices, my last defense. I did not find him. That scared me too. Trust was not a door opening. It was a chain being loosened one link at a time. "Promise me," I said. Dominic's expression changed at that word. Maybe because men like him made vows differently. Maybe because no one had asked him for one without fearing the answer. He reached inside his coat and took out the folded birth certificate. For a second, he looked at Lily's name. Then he placed the paper in my hand. "I promise," he said. "Her proof stays with you. Your proof comes back to you. And Victor Kane does not get to write the ending." I closed my fingers around the certificate. The paper was warm from being near his heart. Downstairs, The front door opened and closed as men prepared to leave. Dominic turned toward the hallway, but I spoke before I could lose my nerve. "There is one more thing in the box." He stopped. "What?" My throat tightened around the memory. A small plastic bracelet. White. Faded. From the hospital where Lily was born. The one I should have thrown away but could not. "Her newborn bracelet," I said. "The nurse wrote the father's last name on it by mistake." Dominic went very still. I looked at him across the nursery shadows. "It says Hale." For the first time all night, he closed his eyes. Not long. Just enough to feel what he refused to show. Then his phone buzzed again. He looked at the screen, and every trace of softness vanished. He turned it so I could see. A video feed from my apartment. My closet door open. The loose floorboard lifted. The shoebox gone. Under the image, Victor had sent one sentence. "You taught her well, Dominic. She keeps secrets like family." The video froze on my phone with the shoebox sitting open in Victor Kane's hands. For a second, I did not understand what I was seeing. My bedroom closet was too familiar. The bent wire hanger I never fixed. The blue sweater folded on the top shelf. The scuff mark on the baseboard from the night I moved the crib by myself because I was too stubborn to ask my neighbor for help. Then Victor's hand entered the frame, pale under the cheap closet light, lifting the tiny white hospital bracelet from the box like it was a prize. My knees weakened so quickly that I grabbed the edge of the changing table. Dominic caught the motion, but did not touch me. He had learned that much already. "Grace," he said, and my name sounded like something he wanted to protect from the air itself. I could not answer. The bracelet was not valuable. It was plastic, faded, bent from being kept too long. But it was the first thing in the world that had called Lily his. Baby girl Hale. 5 pounds, 14 ounces. Born at 4:16 in the morning while snow tapped against a hospital window in Queens, and a nurse named Rosemary told me to breathe. "Honey, just breathe." I had cried when I saw the name. Not because it was wrong, because it was true. Dominic took the phone from my hand, watched the video once more, then passed it to a man standing in the doorway. "Trace the feed," he said. "Find out if it is live, delayed, or staged." The man nodded and disappeared. Mrs. Bell moved quietly to the crib, checking Lily without waking her. The tenderness of that small act nearly broke me. The whole room was full of danger, and still someone remembered the baby should not be cold. "He has everything," I whispered. "No," Dominic said. "He has paper, plastic, and fear. That is not everything." I turned on him, tears hot before I could stop them. "Do not make this sound smaller than it is." He went still. I heard my own breathing, fast and uneven. "You do not get to stand here in this beautiful house and tell me it is only paper." That box was the only reason I could sleep some nights. It was proof I was not making him up. Proof I did not ruin my own life out of some childish panic. Proof that if Lily ever asked why I ran, I could show her I had a reason. Dominic accepted every word without flinching. That made it worse. I wanted him to argue. I wanted him to become the villain I had prepared myself to hate. Instead, he stood in the nursery doorway, broad shoulders shadowed by the hall light, and looked like a man being sentenced by the truth. "You are right," he said. 2 words. Simple. Devastating. I blinked. "What?" "You are right. I do not get to make it smaller." His voice dropped. "So I will not." Silence settled between us. Lily made a soft sound in her sleep, her mouth moving like she was searching for a bottle in a dream. Dominic's eyes flicked toward her, then back to me. "But I need you to hear me, Grace. Victor took the box because he wants you to believe your proof is gone. It is not." "How can you know that?" "Because you are standing here." I shook my head. "That is not proof." "It is to me." His expression did not soften, exactly. It opened. Just enough. "You remembered the date he came to your apartment. You remembered the photo. The clinic. The prepaid phone. You remembered his words exactly because fear carved them into you. Victor can steal a box. He cannot steal what you survived." I looked away because the room blurred. I hated crying in front of powerful men. It felt like giving them a map to your weakest places. But Dominic did not move closer. He let me keep my dignity, even while I was falling apart. Downstairs, voices murmured. A door opened, closed. The house tightened around us like it had lungs. A minute later, the man returned, phone in hand. "Sir," he said, "the video is delayed. Recorded approximately 40 minutes ago. The apartment is empty now. Neighbors saw a gray sedan leave before we arrived." Dominic's face became unreadable. And the box. Gone. The word landed in the nursery like a stone dropped into water. I closed my eyes. In the dark behind my eyelids, I saw Victor's smile. Polite. Patient. Certain he had already won because he had known where I was before Dominic knew I existed. Then Mrs. Bell spoke from beside the crib. Maybe not everything was in the box. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. I opened my eyes. What do you mean? She looked at me gently. Women who run with babies learn to hide things twice. Once for the world, once from their own fear. I stared at her. The words moved through me slowly, unlocking a door I had not realized was there. Once for the world, once from my own fear. My breath caught. The laundry room, not in my apartment. Below it, the laundromat kept a wall of old metal mail slots for tenants, most of them broken, some sealed shut, one with no number because the brass plate had fallen off years ago. I had hidden a second envelope there after Lily was born. I had been half awake, sore, terrified, carrying her in a sling under my coat while the machine spun around me. I had tucked it behind the loose metal flap with shaking fingers and promised myself I would retrieve it when life felt safe. Life never had. There is another copy, I said. Dominic's eyes sharpened. Where? Downstairs from the apartment. In the laundromat. An old mail slot by the change machine. My voice grew steadier as memory returned. It has copies of the first note, a photo of Victor outside my building, and a voice recording on a small drive. Dominic stepped fully into the room. A recording of what? I looked at him, and this time I did not look away. Victor telling me that if I went to you, your daughter would never see her first birthday. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Mrs. Bell crossed herself silently. Dominic looked toward the crib. Lily slept on, one hand open beside her cheek, trusting the room to be kinder than the world had been so far. When Dominic looked back at me, something had changed. Not rage. Not only rage. Purpose. He does not know about the second envelope, he said. No, I whispered. I did not even remember until now. His phone buzzed again. This time, I did not flinch. I watched his face as he read the message. His mouth tightened. He turned the screen toward me. Victor had sent a photograph of the hospital bracelet lying on a polished desk. Beside it was a pen and a blank document with Dominic's name at the top. Under the image were 6 words. Trade your power for their peace. For the first time all night, I felt something stronger than fear rise in me. It was small. It was tired. But it stood up anyway. I looked at Dominic, then at my sleeping daughter, then back at the phone. No, I said. Dominic's eyes found mine. No. My hand closed around Lily's birth certificate. I ran because I thought that was the only way to protect her. I am done running on his terms. Outside, rain slid down the nursery window in silver lines. Inside, Dominic Hale looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time, not as the woman who hid his child, not as the frightened girl from the Langford, but as the mother Victor Kane had underestimated. I lifted my chin though my hand still shook. We get the second envelope, I said. And this time, he does not lead us. We lead him. Dominic did not smile when I said we should lead Victor. Men like him did not reward courage with pretty expressions. He studied it, measured it, decided whether it could survive what came next. I stood in the nursery with Lily asleep behind me, the birth certificate held tight in my hand, and waited for him to tell me no. I was ready for it, ready to fight him with every exhausted inch of myself. But Dominic only looked toward the rain-dark window and said, Then we do it carefully. Carefully. The word changed the room. It did not make anything safe, but it made the fear stand in a straighter line. Mrs. Bell stayed with Lily. I checked the crib twice, then a third time, brushing my knuckles against my daughter's soft cheek until she sighed in her sleep. Leaving her in that room felt like pulling my own heart out and asking someone else to guard it. Mrs. Bell seemed to understand. She placed one hand over mine for just a second. I raised Dominic through fevers, nightmares, and silence, she said softly. No one comes up these stairs without going through me first. It should have sounded impossible from a woman in a navy cardigan and house slippers. Somehow it did not. Downstairs, Dominic had changed out of his suit jacket into a dark wool coat. He looked less like a man who attended private meetings and more like the thing people whispered about after midnight. Still controlled, still quiet, but stripped down to purpose. 2 men waited near the door. I recognized one from the hospital, broad-shouldered. With kind eyes he tried to hide. Dominic introduced him as Michael. He drives, Dominic said. He does not ask questions twice. Michael gave me a small nod. Ma'am. The politeness almost made me laugh. I was wearing damp sneakers, a sweatshirt with formula on the sleeve, and fear under my skin like a second pulse. Ma'am felt like a borrowed coat. Dominic opened the front door himself. Before we stepped into the rain, he looked at me. You can still stay here. I shook my head. That envelope exists because I knew someday I might have to prove the truth myself. My voice was steadier than I felt. I am not letting someone else carry it for me. His eyes held mine for one long second. Then stay close. The drive back to Queens felt shorter than it should have. Manhattan's clean stone turned into bridge lights, then wet brick, corner stores, late-night delis, apartment windows glowing in tired yellow squares. My old neighborhood appeared through the windshield like a memory I had not forgiven. The laundromat sign still buzzed blue and white above the sidewalk. Open 24 hours. Same cracked glass door. Same poster for wash and fold service curling at the edges. But my apartment windows above it were dark, and police tape did not cross the door, which somehow made everything worse. Victor had been there and left no scar the street could see. Michael parked half a block away. Dominic did not let his men crowd the entrance. Too visible, he said. Grace and I go in. You watch from outside. I looked at him sharply. Just us. Victor expects me to arrive with a wall of men. He looked through the windshield at the laundromat. He expects you to be too afraid to walk in beside me. My fingers curled around the strap of the small crossbody bag Mrs. Bell had given me. Inside were my phone, Lily's birth certificate, and nothing that could protect me except the choice to keep moving. Then he expects wrong. Dominic's gaze flicked to me. Not surprised this time. Something closer to respect. The bell above the laundromat door gave the same tired jingle when we entered. Warm, damp air wrapped around us. 3 machines spun near the back, empty except for blurred color and suds. A television mounted in the corner played a muted infomercial. The fluorescent lights made everything look flatter, cheaper, more honest than memory. This was where I had folded Lily's onesies at 3 in the morning because upstairs felt too quiet. This was where I had counted quarters with one hand while rocking her stroller with the other. This was where I had hidden the second envelope because fear had taught me to trust broken things more than beautiful ones. Dominic stayed half a step behind me. Not leading, not pushing, just there. The old mail slots were beside the change machine, a rusted metal grid no one had used in years. Number 12 hung crooked. Number 9 was taped shut. The one with the missing brass plate sat at the bottom left, its tiny door bent inward like a secret mouth. I crouched before it. My hands started shaking again. Not from fear this time. From recognition. Dominic crouched beside me, but did not reach. Tell me what to do. For words. No command. No control. Just a man who could own buildings asking a woman with damp sneakers how to open a broken mail slot. I slid one fingernail under the loose flap and pulled. It stuck. My breath caught. For one terrible second, I thought Victor had found this too. Then the metal gave with a soft scrape. Behind it, wrapped in a clear freezer bag in gray duct tape, was the envelope. Still there. Still mine. I pressed it to my chest before I could stop myself. My eyes filled so fast the laundromat lights blurred. Dominic looked at the envelope, then at me. You did it, he said. No, I wanted to tell him. I survived long enough to remember I had. But maybe that was the same thing. A dryer buzzed behind us, loud and sudden. I flinched. Dominic stood instantly, scanning the front window. Outside, Michael touched his earpiece, then turned toward the street. A gray sedan rolled slowly past the laundromat. Too clean for the hour, too careful for the rain. My stomach tightened. Dominic saw it too. We leave now, he said. I clutched the envelope. Not the front. He looked at me. I nodded toward the back hallway. There is an alley exit behind the storage room. The owner used it for deliveries. For the first time, Dominic almost smiled. Not warmth. Admiration sharpened by urgency. Lead the way. We moved past humming machines and stacked detergent boxes, through a narrow hallway that smelled like bleach and warm lint. My hand closed around the back door handle. Then my phone buzzed. I froze. Dominic saw my face and took one step closer, close enough that his shoulder nearly touched mine. I looked down. Unknown number. One message. No photograph. No threat. Just a sentence that made the envelope feel suddenly heavier in my hand. Clever girl. Now ask Dominic what happened to your mother. The sentence on my phone did not feel like a message. It felt like a hand reaching out of the past and closing around my throat. Clever girl. Now ask Dominic what happened to your mother. For a moment, the laundromat disappeared. The humming machines, the smell of bleach, the rain ticking against the alley door. All of it blurred behind one word. Mother. I had not heard that word as a wound in years. My mother had died when I was 9, or that was what I had been told. A car accident on the Long Island Expressway. A closed casket. A social worker with tired eyes. A foster home that smelled like lemon cleaner and sadness. I had built my life around the shape of that loss because children believe adults when adults sound final. Dominic read the message over my shoulder, and every line of his body changed. Not like surprise. Like recognition. My hand tightened around the envelope. What does that mean? I asked. He did not answer fast enough. That was its own answer. The back hallway grew smaller. Outside, a car rolled over wet pavement, slow and close. Dominic looked toward the alley door, then back at me. We need to move. No, my voice came out sharper than I expected. You do not get to do that. Not after everything. Not after telling me Victor survives by turning secrets into weapons. His eyes held mine, dark and unreadable. This is not the place. Then give me one sentence. My breath shook. One true sentence. Dominic, did your family know my mother? Something passed across his face that hurt before he even spoke. Yes. The envelope nearly slipped from my hand. I pressed it harder against my chest. How? Her name was Claire Miller. I flinched at the sound of it in his voice. Claire. Not Mom. Not the ghost in the one photograph I kept inside a paperback novel. Claire Miller, spoken like someone who belonged to a file, a history, a room I had never been allowed to enter. Dominic's voice dropped lower. She worked as an accountant for my father's company. I stared at him. My mother was a waitress. That was what you were told. The walls seemed to tilt. I reached back and braced one hand against the storage shelf. Plastic detergent bottles rattled softly behind me. No. She worked mornings at a diner in Flushing. She smelled like coffee when she hugged me. She may have, Dominic said carefully. But before that, she handled financial records for my father. Quiet records. The kind people were not supposed to notice. My mouth went dry. And what happened to her? Dominic looked away, just for a second, toward the narrow rectangle of rain light under the alley door. She found money being moved through accounts that did not belong to my father. Victor, I whispered. His eyes returned to mine. We think so. We. The word came out bitter. You and your family? You and the same world that let me bury her before I understood anything. His jaw tightened, but he did not defend himself. I was 19 when she died. I did not know her name then. I did not know yours. But Victor did. My voice broke on the realization. That is why he chose me. Not because of the Langford. Not only because of Lily. Because my mother found something, and I walked right back into the same world without knowing it. Dominic's silence was terrible because it confirmed too much. The gray sedan outside passed the alley mouth again, slower this time. Headlights slid across the crack beneath the door, then vanished. Dominic stepped between me and the exit without touching me. Grace, listen to me. Victor wanted you to ask that question here, where you would freeze, where we would argue, where he could close the distance. He is using your mother because he knows pain makes people stand still. I hated him for being right. I hated Victor more for knowing exactly which ghost would make me stop breathing. I looked down at the envelope in my hands. It was warm now from my grip. Inside it was the second copy, the proof I thought belonged only to Lily. But maybe it belonged to my mother too. Maybe every secret had been waiting for the next woman in my family to become angry enough to open it. Did your father know? I asked. Dominic's expression changed. Before he died, yes. He had started looking into it. That is why Victor wanted control after him. Not just power. Cover. A memory flickered at the edge of my mind. My mother kneeling in front of me the week before the accident, tying my shoelace with shaking hands. If anyone ever tells you being quiet will keep you safe, Gracie, you remember that silence only helps the person who scared you. I had forgotten that. Or maybe I had buried it, because remembering made the loss too sharp. The phone buzzed again. This time, neither of us moved for 2 full seconds. Then I looked down. Another message from Victor. Last chance. Walk out alone, and the baby sleeps peacefully tonight. I felt fear rise, familiar and poisonous. Then Lily's face rose after it. Her gray eyes. her small hand reaching for Dominic's cufflink, her hospital bracelet in Victor's possession, my mother's name in the dark. Something inside me settled. Not calm, not courage exactly. A decision. I handed Dominic the phone. He wants me alone. Dominic's voice went flat. He will not get you. I know. I lifted the envelope. But he can think he will. Dominic stared at me. Grace. No. You said he wants us to argue. He wants me scared. He wants you reacting. I swallowed hard. So let him believe I broke. Let him believe the mother question did exactly what he wanted. Dominic looked at me like I had become a door he did not know how to open. That is dangerous. So was running. So was hiding. So was giving birth without anyone knowing where I was. My voice shook, but it did not fall apart. Danger is not new to me. Being believed is. That landed between us. His face softened in one place, painfully. I believe you. 3 words. No performance. No grand vow. Just the thing I had needed 7 months ago and never got. Outside, Michael's voice came low through Dominic's earpiece. The sedan stopped at the alley entrance. Dominic listened, eyes on mine. 2 people inside, waiting. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. I reached into the envelope with careful fingers and pulled out the small drive, no bigger than my thumbnail. Dominic watched as I tucked it into the lining of my crossbody bag. Behind a torn seam no one would check unless they knew poverty taught better hiding places than vaults. Then I slid the envelope under my arm, visible enough to be bait. Open the door, I said. Dominic did not move. For the first time, I saw the conflict in him plainly. The part trained to command. The part learning to trust. The part that wanted to lock me behind every wall he owned. The part that knew I had survived without his permission. Finally, he stepped aside. His hand brushed the door handle, but stopped. If I say run, you run. I met his eyes. If I say trust me, you trust me. The rain outside beat softly against the metal door. Dominic Hale, the man who could make a city lower its voice, nodded once. I trust you. And when he opened the alley door, I stepped into the rain holding an envelope Victor Kane had already lost. Rain did not fall in the alley so much as hang there, silver and cold, suspended beneath the weak light over the laundromat's back door. I stepped into it with the envelope tucked under my arm and my heart beating so hard it felt like it was trying to warn the whole street. Dominic stayed behind me, not hidden, not far, just shadowed by the doorway in a way that let Victor's people see me first. That was the point. I had spent 7 months making myself small enough to survive. Now I had to look breakable on purpose. The gray sedan waited at the end of the alley, its headlights off, engine running with a low hum that blended into the rain. The passenger window lowered. Victor Kane did not lean out. He did not need to. His voice came from inside the car, calm and polished, and almost bored. Grace Miller, still making poor choices in damp places. My fingers tightened around the envelope. I made myself look toward the car, not back at Dominic. You wanted me alone. I wanted you obedient. Alone was just the easiest version. The rear door opened. A man stepped out holding a black umbrella, then moved aside. Victor emerged slowly, dressed in a light gray coat that had no business being spotless in that weather. He looked exactly the way I remembered from my kitchen table. Clean, patient, certain that everyone else existed 2 steps behind him. In his gloved hand, he held Lily's hospital bracelet sealed inside a plastic evidence sleeve. My breath caught before I could stop it. He noticed. Of course he did. Sentimental little thing, he said, lifting it slightly. Plastic and ink. Yet you mothers give objects so much power. You gave it power when you stole it. He smiled. No, Grace. I borrowed a reminder. You stole 7 months from the wrong man, then confused fear with virtue. Dominic shifted behind me. Barely. Victor's eyes flicked over my shoulder, and his smile widened. There he is. The father of the year. I did not turn. You wanted the envelope, I said. Here it is. Victor's gaze dropped to the packet under my arm. Bring it to me. My feet did not move. Rain slid down my hair, under my collar, across my back. I thought of Lily sleeping in that pale green nursery. I thought of Mrs. Bell standing guard in house slippers. I thought of my mother tying my shoe with trembling hands and telling me silence only helps the person who scared you. First, tell me about Claire Miller. Victor's face did not change. That was how I knew I had touched the truth. Your mother should have minded numbers that belonged to her. My stomach twisted. She was an accountant. She was an inconvenience. Dominic's voice came from behind me, quiet enough to sharpen the alley. Careful, Victor. Victor laughed softly, still giving warnings like they mean something. He looked back at me. Claire found a pattern she should have ignored. My accounts. My arrangements. My future. She thought your father could protect her by telling Hale Sr. He could not even protect himself in the end. The words struck, but they did not knock me down. Maybe because part of me had known since the message arrived. Maybe because grief, when it returns after years, feels less like a blade and more like a door opening to a room you always knew was there. So you followed me because of her, I said. At first. His smile thinned. Then you walked into the Langford Hotel and saved Dominic from a glass, meant to make him weak enough for others to guide. Very inconvenient. Then you disappeared. Then I learned why. His eyes dropped to my stomach for a second, not in a personal way, but in the cold way a man looks at a locked drawer. A child changes inheritance. Blood complicates business. She is not business. My voice shook, but it held. She is my daughter. Dominic's voice came behind me, low and steady. Our daughter. For one heartbeat, the alley changed around those two words. Our daughter. Not possession. Not claim. Recognition. Victor saw it too, and his face hardened by a fraction. How touching. Now hand over the envelope. I held it out just enough for him to see it clearly. This. Do not test me, Grace. You already failed. His eyes narrowed. What did you say? My hand was shaking now, but not from fear alone. You taught me to run. You taught me to hide. You taught me that proof matters. Did you really think I would bring you the only copy? Victor's smile vanished. Behind me, Dominic did not move. He trusted me. I felt it like warmth at my back. The drive is not in the envelope, I said. The recording is already somewhere you cannot reach. That part was almost true. The drive was still tucked inside my bag lining, but Michael had taken a live copy the moment I pulled it out in the laundromat hallway. I had not seen him do it. Dominic had. Trust worked both ways, apparently. Victor looked toward the sedan, then at Dominic. You think a recording changes anything? No, Dominic said. But your voice admitting you threatened my daughter, manipulated Grace, moved money through my father's company, and concealed evidence about Claire Miller changes who still stands beside you in the morning. Victor's eyes sharpened. For the first time, I saw something under the polish. Not fear. Calculation breaking apart too quickly to hide. Phones buzzed almost at once. One from the man near the sedan. One from Victor's coat pocket. One from somewhere behind Dominic. The sound was soft, ordinary, devastating. Messages traveling faster than power could stop them. Dominic stepped beside me then, not in front of me. Beside me. Every family account has the file, he said. Every attorney my father trusted. Every person you convinced I should not listen to. Victor's jaw tightened. You would expose your own house. Dominic looked at him with an emptiness that felt final. I would burn the lies out of it before I let my daughter inherit them. My chest tightened. Not at the threat. At the word inherit. For the first time, it did not sound like danger. It sounded like cleansing. Victor looked at me then, and the old smile returned, but weaker. You think he changes because you had his child? I looked back at him through the rain. No. I think he changes because he finally has something he refuses to own by force. Dominic turned his head slightly, eyes finding mine. The alley, the rain, Victor, the waiting car, all of it faded for one breath. In that breath, I saw the man from the Langford. The man from the hospital hallway. The man in the nursery who had placed the birth certificate back in my hand because he understood too late that proof was not his to hold. Victor took one step back. Not much. Enough. Michael appeared at the alley mouth with two other men, calm and silent, blocking the sedan without touching it. No chaos. No violence. Just doors closing that Victor had left open too long. Dominic held out his hand, palm up, toward Victor. The bracelet. Victor looked at the tiny plastic band. Then at me. Then at Dominic. For a second, I thought he would refuse simply because cruelty hates surrender. But his phone buzzed again, and whatever he read drained the last color from his confidence. He placed the bracelet in Dominic's hand. Dominic did not keep it. He turned and gave it to me. My fingers closed around the plastic sleeve, and the second I felt its small weight, the last 7 months moved through me all at once. The motel rooms. The false names. The labor room. Lily's first cry. The terror. The love. The lie that had kept us alive until truth became strong enough to stand. Victor's car door opened behind him. Someone inside spoke urgently, but I barely heard it. Dominic was watching me. "Are you ready to go home?" he asked. Home. The word did not mean the apartment anymore. It did not even mean his townhouse. Not yet. Maybe home was not a place at first. Maybe it was the moment someone stopped asking you to prove your fear before they believed it. I looked at the bracelet in my hand, then at the man standing beside me in the rain, no longer between me and the world, but with me inside it. "I am ready to see my daughter," I said. Dominic nodded once. We walked out of the alley together while the rain washed the pavement clean behind us, and for the first time since Lily was born, I did not count exits. I counted breaths. One for my mother, one for my daughter, one for the woman I had been before fear renamed me, and one for the truth, which had waited 7 months to fall at the right man's feet.